She stood in that cold courtroom, hands trembling, heart shattered, as the man she had loved for 12 long years signed the divorce papers right in front of her, with the woman who had stolen everything from her life sitting proudly beside him. Everyone thought Angela would break down that day, but no one, neither her husband nor his mistress, could imagine what the judge was about to say next. What happened inside that courtroom turned betrayal into regret, and regret into a lesson they would never forget. She stood in that cold, echoing courtroom, hands trembling, heart pounding so hard it almost drowned out the sound of the judge shuffling papers. It was supposed to be a normal hearing, just signatures, just words on paper, just another broken marriage being finalized. But to Angela, it wasn't just anything. It was the end of 12 years of love, sacrifice, and dreams. 12 years she had carried on her shoulders alone. Across the room sat David, the man she once believed was her forever, the man who promised to grow old with her. But the worst part wasn't even seeing him sitting there. It was seeing the woman sitting beside him, Vanessa, the mistress, young, perfectly dressed, wearing a smile that was meant to hurt. She sat close to David, her hand lightly touching his arm as if to say, "I've won." Everyone thought Angela would cry that day. Everyone thought she'd break down. But no one, neither David nor Vanessa, could imagine what was about to happen next. What happened in that courtroom would turn betrayal into regret, and arrogance into shame. Mike voiceover. Before we begin this emotional story, if you believe that justice always finds its way and broken hearts can rise again, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Gentle Words, where real stories touch the soul. Angela had always been the kind of woman who gave everything for her family. She worked as a nurse, spending sleepless nights in hospitals so that her husband could build his career and their daughter could have the childhood she never did. She believed in love, she believed in promises, she believed in David. They met when she was still in college, both young and full of dreams. He used to bring her coffee to late-night shifts and promise, "I'll take care of you forever." She believed him then, but promises are fragile things when they're built on lies. For months, Angela had felt something shifting. David no longer looked at her the same way. He came home late, smelling like expensive perfume she didn't wear. He laughed at texts he refused to show her. When she asked if something was wrong, he always snapped, "You're overthinking. I'm just tired." So she stayed quiet. She trusted him. She kept building a future while he was already living another. And then came the day her world cracked open. It was their 10th wedding anniversary. Angela, exhausted but happy, came home earlier than usual, holding a cake, balloons, and a little wrapped gift. She tiptoed to the bedroom, ready to surprise the man she loved. But when she opened that door, she froze. Her husband wasn't alone. A woman, a stranger with long dark hair and red lips, was wrapped in their bedsheets. David jumped, panicked, trying to explain something unexplainable. Vanessa smirked, fearless, almost proud. Angela didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just stood there, tears burning in her eyes, the sound of the rain outside blending with the sound of her heart breaking. She left that night with nothing but her dignity. The days after the betrayal were quiet and cruel. David moved in with Vanessa within weeks. Photos of them appeared online like Angela never existed. Laughing in restaurants, traveling, acting like a couple who hadn't destroyed a family. Angela cried alone at night, hiding her pain from Naomi, their 8-year-old daughter. She tried to be strong. She tried to keep moving. But then came the divorce papers. And worse, David didn't just file them. He brought Vanessa to the first hearing. The courtroom was crowded. David wore a sharp suit. Vanessa, in a tight red dress, sat beside him like she owned the place. Angela walked in quietly, wearing a simple black dress and a calm expression. Her heart was heavy, but her head was high. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. David smirked when he saw her. Vanessa leaned closer, whispering something that made him chuckle. The judge, an older woman with stern, wise eyes, noticed everything. David's lawyer began to speak. He listed their assets, their house, their cars, their bank accounts. David wanted half the assets, and the house. He wanted shared custody of Naomi. Vanessa played with her hair, confident, believing everything was already in their favor. Angela didn't interrupt. She didn't beg. She let them talk. But when the judge turned to her and asked, "Mrs. Williams, do you have anything to say?" she stood up slowly, the quiet strength in her eyes silencing the room. "Yes, Your Honor," she began, her voice calm but powerful. "I have a lot to say. I gave this man 12 years of my life. I carried his dreams on my back while working night shifts at the hospital. I raised our daughter when he was too tired to care. I believed in him. I trusted him. I loved him. And this is how he repays me, by bringing the woman he betrayed me with into a courtroom meant for truth and justice. I don't want revenge. I want what's fair. I want my daughter to grow up in a home built on respect, not humiliation." The room went silent. Vanessa's fake smile faltered. David shifted uncomfortably. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Williams," she said sharply, "it's one thing to end a marriage. It's another to disrespect your wife in a court of law by bringing your mistress into these proceedings. You've shown a level of cruelty I will not overlook." Angela's lawyer presented proof. Bank statements showing her financial contributions, records of her long hours, proof that she was the primary caregiver. David had little to fight with except his ego. The judge spoke again, her voice like steel. "Mr. Williams, I've seen many cases like this, but rarely have I seen such arrogance. You left your wife for another woman, and then walked in here expecting to walk away with everything she built. That won't happen." David's face tightened. Vanessa's hand slipped from his arm. The judge continued, "Based on the evidence, the court awards the marital home and primary custody of your daughter to Mrs. Williams. You will pay alimony and child support. Your visitation will be reviewed after 6 months to ensure stability. And for the record, bringing your mistress to this courtroom was not only disrespectful, it was foolish." David jumped up. "You can't do that." The judge raised a hand. "Sit down, Mr. Williams. This is my courtroom, and actions have consequences." Vanessa stared at him, suddenly realizing this wasn't the glamorous life she had imagined. Her lips tightened. David sank back down, humiliated, the confidence draining from his face. Angela didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She simply breathed for the first time in months. After the verdict, David and Vanessa stormed out of the courtroom. Vanessa hissed at him in the hallway. "You told me she wouldn't get anything. You said it would be easy." David's face burned red with shame. For the first time, he felt what it meant to lose something real. Angela walked out quietly, holding the documents in her hand. The breeze outside brushed her face softly, and the weight on her shoulders finally felt a little lighter. A reporter standing nearby asked gently, "Ma'am, how do you feel after all this?" Angela turned, her eyes shining, not from pain this time, but from strength. "I feel free," she whispered. "I feel like I finally remembered who I am." The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were hers. Naomi ran into her arms every afternoon after school, the house was full of warmth again, and Angela began to rebuild, not just her life, but herself. She painted Naomi's room a new color. She started reading books at night instead of crying. She began to smile again. David, on the other hand, learned the weight of regret. Vanessa's charm faded when money got tighter. The house was gone. His image was cracked. He tried calling Angela late one night, but she didn't answer. She didn't need his apologies. She didn't need his closure. She had found her strength without him. Vanessa left him a month later. She didn't sign up for a man drowning in his own mistakes. David sat alone in a cheap apartment, surrounded by empty beer cans, staring at old photos of Angela and Naomi. He realized too late that he had thrown away something pure for something shallow. Angela, meanwhile, stood in front of the mirror one morning, looking at herself with quiet pride. She wasn't just a woman who had survived betrayal. She was a woman who had risen. She whispered to her reflection, "This is my beginning, not my end." Mic voiceover. If you believe that justice can rise from heartbreak, that dignity is power, and that strength speaks louder than revenge, then let Angela's story remind you, betrayal might hurt, but it can never define you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Gentle Words for more stories that move your soul. Angela held Naomi's hand as they walked to the park that evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in warm colors. For the first time in a long time, she felt peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from someone else loving you, but from loving yourself enough to stand tall. She knew the road ahead would have challenges, but she also knew this time, she would face them as a woman who had learned her worth. The gavel had struck weeks ago, but its echo still lived in David's mind. Every night, when the world grew quiet and his phone stopped buzzing, the memory of that courtroom played in his head like a punishment he couldn't escape. The moment the judge spoke those words, "Your actions have consequences, Mr. Williams," something inside him cracked. For the first time in his life, David felt what it meant to lose not just a home, but the one person who ever truly believed in him. Angela, meanwhile, began to rebuild her life piece by piece. Not in a dramatic rush, but in the quiet, steady way strong women do. Every morning, she woke up before the sun, packed Naomi's lunch, braided her hair, and kissed her forehead before school. The house that had once felt like a war zone now felt like a safe place again. The walls were still the same, but the air was different, peaceful, free. Mic voiceover. If you believe that healing after heartbreak is real and strength can be found in silence, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Gentle Words. This chapter will remind you that true strength doesn't shout. It grows quietly. Angela had painted the living room a soft warm color, the kind that made the space feel alive again. She put away every trace of David. His photos were boxed up. His favorite chair was gone. Every reminder of pain was gently erased, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. Her heart had been bruised, but it wasn't broken anymore. Naomi, though young, had noticed the changes too. She clung to her mother a little tighter now. She asked questions sometimes. Why doesn't Daddy live here anymore? And Angela would kneel, hold her small hands, and say softly, because sometimes, grown-ups forget how to love the right way. But Mommy will never stop loving you. And that was enough for Naomi. David's life, on the other hand, began to unravel the way a loose thread slowly destroys a fabric. Vanessa left him 2 months after the divorce. She couldn't handle his bitterness, his financial struggles, or the fact that he no longer had anything to offer except regret. Their once glossy love had turned dull, heavy with resentment and silence. She packed her bags one night, leaving behind a note that said, "This isn't the life I signed up for." David tried pretending he didn't care. He tried going out, drinking with old friends, living like the man he used to be. But nothing felt the same. Every place he went reminded him of something Angela once did for him. How she used to pack him breakfast for work. How she would wait at the door when he came home late. How she always believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. And that's when the regret became unbearable. He tried calling her once. Just once. It was late, the kind of night when silence stings. He stared at her contact name for 10 minutes before finally pressing call. The phone rang, but she didn't answer. He whispered into the empty room, "Please, Angela," but no one heard him. Angela saw the missed call the next morning. She stared at it for a few seconds, her heart fluttering, not from longing, but from the ghost of a feeling she once had. She put the phone down and went on making breakfast for Naomi. The past had already taken enough of her. It didn't deserve another second. Meanwhile, Naomi's school was preparing for its annual recital. She had been practicing a little poem for weeks, her small voice echoing through the house at night as Angela watched with soft, proud eyes. On the day of the performance, the auditorium was filled with parents, some holding flowers, some clapping excitedly. Angela sat in the third row, wearing a simple but elegant dress, her smile glowing. Naomi stepped onto the stage, nervous but determined. She looked into the crowd and saw her mother. That was all she needed. David, sitting in the very back, had come quietly. He hadn't told anyone. He just needed to see his daughter. He didn't know if Angela would even want him there. He sat alone, feeling the weight of everything he'd lost pressing down on him like a stone. When Naomi started her poem, about bravery, kindness, and love, David's throat tightened. She spoke about a hero in her life. And to his shock, she didn't say, "Daddy." She said, "Mommy." Greater than, "My hero is strong. She never gives up. She makes me feel safe. She tells me that even if someone leaves, love doesn't. She is my heart's home. My hero is my mom." The audience clapped. Angela's eyes filled with tears. David lowered his head, feeling a pain deeper than anything he'd ever felt before. It wasn't anger. It wasn't jealousy. It was the unbearable weight of knowing he had broken something he could never fix. After the recital, parents flooded the stage. Naomi ran into Angela's arms. "Did I do good, Mommy?" She beamed. Angela held her tight. "You were perfect, baby. Perfect." David watched from afar, unsure whether to approach or disappear. Angela saw him, just for a moment. Her smile faded, but not from hate. From a quiet, distant sorrow. He took a step forward. "Angela," he whispered. She looked at him calmly, holding Naomi close. There was no anger left in her, just an ocean of things unsaid. "David," she answered simply. His voice cracked. "I miss her. I miss you. I know I ruined everything. I know saying sorry won't fix it. But I needed to be here today." Angela nodded slowly. You missed two. Many days before this one, David. I know, he said, his eyes red. I was a fool. I thought love would wait for me even when I broke it. She looked at him, not as the man she once loved, but as someone she used to know. David, I don't hate you. I just don't belong to that story anymore. Naomi deserves better. I deserve better. He lowered his head, unable to argue. He knew she was right. She let Naomi walk ahead to talk to her teacher, then turned back to him. You still have a chance to be her father, David. Not through empty promises, but through actions. Start being present, not for me, for her. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you, for not shutting me out completely. I'm not forgiving you, she said softly. I'm freeing myself. She turned away, her hand gently resting on Naomi's shoulder as they walked out together. The image of them, mother and daughter, hand in hand, radiant and strong, stayed burned into David's mind like a scar that would never fade. That night, Angela sat by the window after putting Naomi to bed. The moonlight poured into the room, painting the walls in silver. She thought about the woman she used to be, the one who cried herself to sleep. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, softer, wiser. She whispered to the night, I survived. And for the first time, it didn't sound like a battle cry. It sounded like peace. David, alone in his apartment, stared at an old photo of the three of them. His chest ached, not because she hated him, she didn't, but because she had learned to live without him. Regret is a heavy thing. It comes too late. Angela made herself a cup of tea, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. She didn't need anyone to fix her. She had already fixed herself. She had rebuilt her heart, one quiet morning at a time. Naomi tiptoed out of her room, her tiny voice whispering, Mommy, are you okay? Angela smiled and pulled her into her lap. Yes, sweetheart, Mommy's more than okay. Naomi laid her head on her mother's chest, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat like a lullaby. You're my hero, she mumbled sleepily. Angela kissed the top of her head. And you're my reason. Mic voiceover. If this story touched your heart, remember, real strength doesn't come from the people who hurt us. It comes from the way we rise after they do. Hit like if you believe in new beginnings, and subscribe to Gentle Words for more stories that remind us, even broken hearts can bloom again. As the night grew quiet, Angela didn't feel pain anymore. She didn't feel anger. She felt free. Her story wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about rebirth, and that was the most powerful ending of all.